The new moon that happened on March 18th in Pisces has three distinct themes. The first being, this is not a new beginning. This is an old idea that we have been trying to start for quite a while, many years. This is the last time that we are going to feel as though we are trying to make something happen out of something that is pre-existing. The second theme, that this is truly the last opportunity that we have to change our values. So whatever this new old opportunity, we are giving one last shot to restart. In so doing, it's actually allowing us to see a drastic change in what we value and how we see our own value. And finally, this, in a very subtle way, is a new moon that really wants you to commit to reality itself. So I'll go into the chart and explain these three themes through three key aspects that I have my eye on as an astrologer. The first is this idea that whatever new beginning is starting right now is actually very much so not a new beginning, and it is us restarting something we have tried to start in the past. I see this because we have the new moon in a balsamic conjunction to Saturn and Neptune, and what that looks like in the chart is right here. The balsamic conjunction is the conjunction that is not new. It's the completing phase of the conjunction. So if you see the 29-degree Pisces moon is right before both Neptune and Saturn in the sign of Aries. And that means that the moon itself is completing a relationship to Saturn in Aries at the time of the new moon itself. And what that means is we are beginning this lunar cycle in a completing phase to Saturn Neptune. Okay? The other reason that this is a not new beginning is because, of course, the degree mark of this new moon, which is around the 28th degree of Pisces, and this is one of the final degrees of Pisces. And everything in astrology is very much so correlated to the cycles and the numbers of what's going on. This is 28 degrees out of like literally 29 degrees. So we are right at the end of something. So I want you to consider in your life if at this new moon, it's not some big brand new beginning, it's something you've been actively trying to start many times over, and it just so happens that you're giving it one last try before things really have to change next month. And I know that's the feeling that I have in my life. Okay. The second aspect I mentioned was this last opportunity for really changing our values. And that's because the new moon is making a sextile to Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Let me show you that. A sextile is more or less a 60-degree aspect. But if you really think about it, this is a waning sextile or a last quarter sextile, which means that the moon has already come all the way around this far in relationship to Uranus. So in fact, it's more like a 300-degree aspect and not a 60-degree aspect. And all that means is that, again, there is a last chance, a completion energy, and a sextile is always some very harmonious. And so this new beginning that we are stepping into again with this old idea, the old theme that we are trying to begin again. In doing so, we are actually tapping into a great amount of intelligence, specifically intelligence within the Taurus realms. So material intelligence, your values, what you know you are worth. The way I experience this is very much so about technology and using technology for its inherent value, the inherent value of anything Uranian, in order to connect us together more. like investing yourself, whether that's by time or money, deeper into the Uranian world. Okay, so this new moon has everything to do with using the intelligence of your resources, whether that's a technological resource, again, your money resource, your inner worth. There's something when we're restarting this big project or we are wanting to approach it in a brand new way this time. Again, it's not the first time we're doing this. We've been around the block, and we might even feel very tired with starting this way, but this is the one last shot. We'll find that by leaning into our worth, leaning into technology, leaning into resourcing ourselves, resourcing our own intelligence, there's an opportunity there for us, a very, very real opportunity. Okay. The final aspect I mentioned in the beginning is this theme of commitment. Okay. And that's because we have this new moon also in a sextile to the asteroid Juno. Okay. I don't use asteroids so much in my practice, but this felt significant. This is Juno right here. And we can see Juno is, 1 degree away from a more perfect sextile to the new moon. And it is also 1 degree away at the time of the new moon to a perfect trine to Uranus. This new moon is in what's called a first quarter sextile to Juno. Since the moon moves that way, Juno moves much slower than the moon. And so this is what we call a 60-degree aspect. So we are still learning about what this opportunity is. It's not as culminative when it comes to the Juno's themes, which I'll explain in a minute. But just to contrast that again to the sextile that I was just talking about with Uranus, which is a 300-degree sextile, again, a culminating sextile, which means that the Uranus themes are very mature, whereas the Juno themes are not as mature. They're actually very new. And it is in going through this cycle that we will study the themes of Juno, which in this case are about Capricorn. Okay. Juno in mythology is Jupiter's wife. And to me, I'm not going to go into all the nuances of that mythology. Feel free to Google it. But Juno is a wife, and she is the archetype of being a wife, being someone whose like whole identity is baked into her commitment to a relationship, a love relationship, a marriage, in such a drastic way that she almost doesn't need her husband to show up with the same type of devotion and commitment that she does. She's, of course, not happy if he's not faithful, which he's not. But the way I read Juno is that you choose that identity and you don't need your partner to reflect it back to you. But you oddly do need the partner in order to play out that role to its fullest. Okay, so this won't look like a committed relationship for everybody, but I think what it will look like is a commitment to this dream. Okay, and it's in the sign of Capricorn. Juno's in the sign of Capricorn, which means it just doubles down on that theme of commitment, of reality. Saturn is black and white. And so Juno in Capricorn wants a commitment to reality itself. Juno in Capricorn wants us to commit to the reality of making this dream, this new moon dream, which is very much so a Pisces new moon is a new dream, making it, committing to it to bring it into reality. And as we do that, we really activate the Uranus intelligence of our sensory body, of how we feel in this present moment, of the intelligence that comes through us. And it's not something that we're going to have to make up. This is not a new moon of putting more effort in. This is a new moon about being open to, yes, maybe the same thing you've been trying to do for a while, but doing it differently this time. I mean, that's also a sextile to Uranus says, shake it up. give yourself some space to try again. So, those are the three main things that I wanted to get across. Of course, there are other aspects going on, some very strong aspects going on in this chart, but these are really the three that I feel are the most significant, especially just based on aspects alone. So I wanted to share them. And I also find as an astrologer that it's much clearer to understand what's going on after the main event happens. So predicting what the new moon's going to be about isn't necessarily helpful to me or even I think to you because you're creating that as you go. There's this weird thing that happens when you forecast astrology and somehow in doing so it makes you think that, well, it makes me think that I don't actually have to act in real life. And astrology is only going to work when you are also working, when something in you is very alive, when you are pulsing, when you are not static. And that theme of being very alive is, I track that to the Saturn in Aries, to Neptune in Aries right now. We're coming off of many years of a little bit more of a sleepy reality. And right now it's like yesterday was the time to wake up. This lunar cycle, this new moon in Pisces is the in between of that previous 3 years and the next 3 years because this is a month-long cycle. We'll have a Libra full moon in a few weeks, which I'll definitely talk about. But the next new moon that we have is the new moon in Aries. And from my perspective, that's when the astrological new year really, really starts. And so this is the new moon to really bring the last few years into energetic completion, not to abandon the project that you tried to start over the last 3 years, but to really double down and give it your all. Because next month's new moon, the new moon in April, will be a brand new restart to absolutely everything. And so all you can do right now is commit to who you are, what you know, and your dream. Even if it does feel like that dream somehow exists in a past, you need to show up new to it right now. Anyway, okay? Neptune and Aries ruling this new moon. It it just wants you to be present, to shake off anything that's not actually helpful in your body and to see your reality as clearly as possible. That's all I think astrology can help us do is to see reality very clearly. So that's what I wanted to share for the new moon in Pisces. I hope you have a lovely cycle. And until the next one, bye for now.